to have the education they've always dreamed of, so they can build a brighter future. You'll be feeding a hungry stomach and a hungry mind with knowledge that will last them a lifetime. That's the power of an education. Sponsor an orphan now with Islamic Relief.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, everybody. This is your brother, Muslim Comedy OG, Preacher Moss. I'm here to tell you that the Muslim Comedy Tour, the Super Muslim Comedy Tour, is sponsored by Penny Appeal. This thing is going to be the joint. You're talking about Preacher Moss. We're talking about epic artists. You're talking about the ShOUT Show, reporting live from the road. I'm the host of the ShOUT Show, by the way. Listen, this is going to be amazing. We're all doing it for an incredible cause. Right now, the people of Pakistan need you. You've been seeing it in the radio and the press. They're dealing with floods, massive floods that displace plenty of people. Listen, come out. Now, I know we got a lot of artists on here. I love them all. I'm going to tell you something. You've been rocking with me, Preacher Moss, the OG Muslim Comedy, since 2004. This is 18 years been doing this thing. We have a relationship. So come out and laugh. Come out, let's do Allah's work. Let's come out and support these brothers and sisters that need our help. Make sure you get your tickets. The streets are talking, and they're talking about you coming to the show. I'm Preacher Moss. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Super Muslim Comedy Show. I think I did that right. Take care. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, everybody. This is your host, Preacher Moss, host of the SOS. I want to say I'm the band leader for one of the best podcasters out there. I'm just talking about not me. I'm just talking about the quality of people that we get on the show. Listen, everybody, I want to give a shout out. Fellow comedian Kevin Hart lost his father. Want to send out some condolences for that. Just seems to be the season. And as well, there's a couple brothers. I won't put their name on here. Dua's out for you with your families and being in any sensitive situations when we have loved ones that are in that transitional period. Just dua's out. So if anybody's having a hard time, dua's to you, whether it be family, whether it be health, whether it be job, whether it be finances, just dua's out. You know, I just want to make sure that you know, at least for myself and the team here, we got you in a space where we're thinking about you. We hope that things resolve themselves in your better place. Also want to give a shout out to my mom, Mama San, who just had cataract surgery today. Oh my gosh, cataract surgery today. She does not need a seeing eye dog. She will not be selling pencils. Her surgery was a success. Shout out to my Aunt Maxine, who shepherded her to the surgery and back. It's amazing that these two sisters just keep getting it right, keep on plugging along. So God bless you. All right, so let me get to the crux of this, because we have a lot to, as they say in cliche, you hear it all. There's a lot to unpack here, but there's not a lot to unpack. What it is, there's a lot to structure. I don't like to unpack stuff unless I know how I'm going to structure it. So there are going to be some things that you're going to hear today. If you have a chance, while we go to the break, what you should do most likely is actually go get yourself a pen and paper. I'm going to be giving you some notes. So while this is the ShOUT Show, we do have a very, very open forum, and you are encouraged to ask questions. I think it's really important that the information I'm going to give to you is free. What you do is your business, but I'm going to talk to you about something that's very, very important, because it's on a spiritual side. And what I mean by that, sorry about that, folks. What I mean by that is these are the things that make us feel better. These are the things that make our community better. And we're not talking about them enough because we tie into certain levels of mediocrity, or in some cases, less than mediocrity. And we're not asking crucial questions, and we're not looking around at competition, really not in terms of competition, but it's like, what is the environment around you? Is it a better environment? Can you make that environment better? Or is it a situation where you need to leave that environment? So we're going to be talking about that today. This might be a show that actually runs over 30 minutes, maybe 31 minutes. And I'm going to try and keep this thing. If need be, we'll do a part 2. Sister Tana will let me know. She's the new executive producer of the show. So we'll go from that level. So look, we're going to take a break and come back because I don't want to waste time today. This is a ShOUT Show. Let's go ahead and get it rolling. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. I want to introduce and shout out everybody who's in the gallery today. I want to give a shout out to all of our shout out show family, starting with Sister Ree. How you doing, Sister Ree? Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi barakatuh. My dear sister, thank you so much for joining us. Peace and blessings to your husband, Derek, and your son, Jawan. Always a pleasure to have you in the place. Next up, Mr. 6 o'clock, my main man, off toss Rashid. We call him Mr. 6 o'clock, straight up, straight down. The Canadian envoy to the shout out show since day one. And he's been here just sharing his blessings, sharing his existence. We appreciate the presence on the platform, my dear brother. Hope everything is going well in Toronto. Give my salams to your family. Next up, Sister Ika, who's checking in from Melbourne these days. Checking in from Melbourne. No longer in Indonesia. She is in Melbourne, Australia. Peace and blessings to you and your family. Hope all is well. Thank you so much for tuning in, everybody. Appreciate you. Shout out to Down Under. Next up, my dear brother and my fellow partner in crime, Johnny L. Thomas, better known as JT. Wa alaikum assalam rahmatullahi barakatuh, dear brother. Good to see you on the show. Appreciate you, man. Let's just keep it moving. All right. Next up, my main man, Bilal Salahuddin, and his queen, Sister Sonia, who's not with him, as he says, just him today. But, brother, even when you're by yourself, she's with you. I'm just trying to help you out. All right, man. Thank you so much for joining us. And hopefully some of the stuff I say today is going to be of use. And we can't forget, of course, Sister Satana Whitfield, our executive producer. I've been saying consultant producer for years. I was executive producer here on the Shout Out Show. Thank you so much. She says, welcome, everyone. Awesome. Let me tell you where this story started. There's 2 points where this story starts. Number one is with one of my mentors. Well, two of my mentors, Reginald Kitchen, may Allah be pleased with him, and Harry Weber, may Allah be pleased with him. We're going to focus on Harry today. But the thing that sparks this conversation happened to be it was a documentary on, I believe it was HBO Max. I think it was HBO Max or Apple TV, one of the two. And it focused on an Asian basketball player named Jeremy Lin. Now, some of you may remember Jeremy Lin. He played for the Knicks. They had the single Insanity. He had a 15 minutes of fame where this Asian basketball player just lit up the stratosphere. Everybody talked about him. And in this documentary, Hassan Minhaj, fellow comedian Hassan Minhaj, talked about this guy in the NBA scoring points. You know, he was a bad guy. He scored points. He put up points. And he talked about this thing. And he said what was important for Asians that were taking part of it, because, you know, Asians deal with oppression as well here in the United States, as well as other people of color. But he said it was the idea that here you had a situation on the biggest stage that an Asian basketball player, which you never hear of, an Asian basketball player that wasn't drafted, but somehow he defied what normally Asians do, which is they make themselves small. Making yourself small, brothers and sisters, is a very, very deep psychological concept. It is inefficiency. It is inadequacy. It is a feeling of not having full worth when you make yourself small. Now, I'm saying that because this was coming out of the mouth of Hassan Minhaj, who's a good dude. But I was looking, going, man, well, we talking about basketball. Some of us have grown up before we got here in this atmosphere. Our parents, our grandparents, our forefathers, our foremothers have been dealing with an environment that consistently try to play us small. And that is where we're going to start today. Being successful, and I don't mean you're successful making thousands of dollars or millions and billions of dollars. I'm just talking about the day-to-day things that you have to do to be successful, to be able to hold a job, to be able to take care of your family, to be able to do all these things. The things that you have to do to be able to dream, and I'm talking about full, robust dreams. When you see them, you can touch them. When you're asleep, you can taste them. We're talking about these dreams that are so strong that they're tangible, even though we can't see them in our conscious state. We can't see them. Harry Weber says something, and this is where you want to write this down. one of the greatest meetings I ever had with Harry Weber. He said, I'm going to tell you about Hollywood. And I said, okay. He said, pick me up at this time. And he lived off of the 101 back then. He said, pick me up at this time. And I picked him up at this time. And he was telling me about Hollywood, but he was telling me about life. And we went out to Malibu. And he took me around all these houses around Malibu. And he explained to me the only reason that he can come up to Malibu, or we could come up to Malibu, was because he knew people in Malibu. So he knew Barry Gordy. So if somebody said, what are you doing here? He goes, I'm a friend of Barry Gordy. They could call. I didn't know all of this. But when he explained this to me, it just clicked. And hopefully it's going to click for you. In the entertainment business, just like a lot of businesses, but in the entertainment business, there are two types. Now, there's different prototypes underneath. He said, but there are two types of people. He said, there are buyers and there are sellers. Let me say it again. There are buyers and then there are sellers. He said, when you're in Hollywood or LA, he said, you're around a bunch of sellers. He said, when you come to Malibu, some miles away up in the mountains, he said, you are amongst buyers. He said, because the buyers don't want to be amongst the sellers. He said, there is a psychology that said, we don't want to have anything to do with those people. The deals that you see on television, the big money deals, they're made by people who live in Malibu, not people who live in LA. And I said, Harry explained that to me. He said, I'm going to tell you why this is important. And please pay attention to me because I'm only going to say it once. Hollywood is built upon people who are equipped, trained, oriented to spot other folks and look at opportunities and exploit opportunities to make people small. That you have a skill set that God has given you. But somehow, some way, you believe I can only get this skill set out, or it can only be successful if I go through this person. And that person will tell you that you're small without them. Someone asked me, Preach, how come you never really had a manager? Preach, how many come you really have an agent? I'm going to tell you why. Because every agent, every manager that I came across in my life made a tragic mistake. They tried to make your boy small. And I literally would say, before we even have these conversations, you need to look at where it comes from now. I just don't come from black folk. I come from the tradition of Malcolm. I come from the tradition of Medgar. Dick Gregory is my hero. I'm talking about Honorable Elijah Muhammad, Farrakhan. Before you even try to have this conversation with me, do your homework. And they never did their homework. Consequently, of course, I understood clearly who were sellers and who were buyers. Harry Weber framed for me in a very painful way that I am a buyer. That I am a buyer. He said, you're not in Malibu. He said, you're in the world. He said, your problem is you hang around and make too many opportunities and too many options for people who will make you small. Harry Weber said it. I hate to say it, but Imam Warif D. Muhammad said it. A lot of people have said it. But why is this important? It's important because in the latter half of my life, I stopped hanging out with people who will make me small, and I confront people that will try to make me small or make others small. Why is this important? Because to have real communal growth, brothers and sisters, and really be able to approach your success seriously, you have to be oriented to these things. That we are surrounded by people who are sellers. What is the nature of a seller? They sell a product. They don't make a product. They don't create a product. They don't manufacture product. It's not coming from, they sit around hoping, looking that they can catch on to something. Comedians do this all the time. We see somebody who's a big comedian, we're going to hang out with him and hopefully someone, that's his creativity. That's her creativity. In the jazz game, it was never like that because in the jazz game, you had to be able to play. I come from the jazz tradition. You got to be able to play. And if you can really play, you're always going to be a buyer. And the buyers hang with buyers. Too often, and this may be painful for some folks, but too often in the history of African Americans, particularly African American Muslims, and we don't talk about it enough, and we need to get it out. One of the most painstaking things with being African American Muslims in the United States is that at some point in time, you ain't no real African American Muslim till somebody from your own community tries to play you small. And you can put out every hadith, you can look for things in the Quran, but you're never going to move past that thought that person tried to play you small, tried to make you small, try to, whatever you had to say, not only did you not say it, you swallowed the words. And in being successful, you got to regurgitate. Even if the words don't make sense, you got to get used to the fact that you got to throw your words out there. Even if you have to assemble them and frame them correctly, say that. There's a great example I just read about a comedian, Nice and Smooth. Smooth B from Nice and Smooth. I don't know if y'all know Smooth B, but that was my man right there. Him and Greg Nice. Okay. He's telling this story about him and Bobby Brown coming up with the idea for My Prerogative. And they talk about a young guy named Aaron Hall who was in the group guy. And Aaron Hall shows up. They're writing the lyrics. Teddy Riley is putting together the music. And Aaron Hall walks into this room with Teddy Riley, Bobby Brown, and Smooth. And Teddy Riley tells him this guy sings like Stevie Wonder and Charlie Wilson. And everybody's impressed. And when he walks in, they didn't know he was a stutterer. And so when he walked in, he stuttered. Not to make fun of people who stutter, but you can see, the more you're excited, sometimes the more you stutter. And Bobby Brown and Smooth B were like, what the heck is this? Are you playing some kind of joke on us? But when they asked him to sing, he didn't play himself small. Go back and listen to every Guy song that Aaron Hall sang on. He did not stutter at all. He played himself big. And if you get anything out of this today, brothers and sisters, is that we have to get into practice of playing ourselves bigger. I'm not saying the biggest, but bigger. Whatever the situation is, be bigger than that situation. Because there are people who don't know what big means, but they do know what small means. Big to them means that you are smaller than them. Big to them means that somewhere along the line, you've forgotten that you're a buyer. And now you're down in the valley like LA with all the people who are sellers. And one thing about sellers, there's so many sellers in LA, they actually think that they're taking on the mantra of being buyers. Scary, isn't it? We'll be right back here on the Shout Out Show. Stop playing yourself small. Hey, babies. Welcome to Radio WCUC, Convenient Urgent Care, home of the smart patient. This is DJ What It Do. You know what time it is. It's the top of the hour, and the request lines are open. You know what you want to hear. I know what you want to hear. Operators are waiting.
I just got to hear, don't get the COVID.
Don't get the COVID. Put your mask back on. The Delta COVID, more contagious than before. Don't get the COVID. Go on and get the vaccine. You know that it can keep you safe, and your people living up in your space. Don't get the COVID. You need to wash your hands. The Delta COVID is more deadly than before. Don't get the COVID. Go on and get your vaccine. You know that it can keep you from dying. Don't leave your family all alone and crying. Don't get the COVID.
We invite you to join our fight against COVID and against misinformation. It's time to listen to the doctors and trust the science.
When I think of people dying that don't have to die, it makes me sad. Now's the time to be sober. Together we can make this thing over. Let's fight the COVID. Convenient urgent care, home of the smart patient.
All right, welcome back. Listen, I want to continue on this thing. We talk about stop playing yourself small. Let's talk about some of the ways you can stop playing yourself small. Number one, and this works for me. It may not work for you, but it works for me. Number one, I feel like the talent or the skills that I have or the special attributes I have, I'm only going to have for a little bit of time. They're not necessarily going to be there the whole time. Just like your wealth, your health, your youth, things like that, they're not going to be there at the same time. Even the way we pray, you know, you're not going to pray the same way your whole life. At some point in time, you're going to wind up in the chair. At some point in time, it's not going to be, you know, you're in the chair or you're in the bed. You know, and I know that's something that's, I have to be careful about how I say that, but it's true. Your opportunities for the skills that you have are not going to be the same. The clock is ticking. Here's the beautiful part. You don't know when it started ticking. You don't know when it's going to stop ticking. Therefore, the impetus is for you to start working. That's number one. Number two, get proficient at understanding smallness in your spaces. If you hear someone speaking or engaging to make someone else small, it's only a matter of time before they come to you. It's only a matter of time that when you're not in their presence, they're going to say things. Now, I have a reputation. I'm going to be honest. I'm no gangbanger. I ain't no boxer or nothing like that. But I would tell you this. Some of the most violent arguments and fights I've been involved with circled around people who thought that they can make me small. Because I'm already small. There's a difference between being short and small. Shut up, Satana. You know what I'm saying. But the people who tried to make me small, to this day, I live to make their life uncomfortable. I live for them to eat their words. Whether it's all that made me funny, whether it was into racism coming lecture tour, I live to watch them have to sit there and swallow over and over the success that they had nothing to do with. That I employed myself as a buyer. I bought what I was believing, and you should buy what you're believing as well. And what was beautiful about it is there's a thing I talked about, it's called deliberate practice. And so my deliberate practice was, I take a mark here. Oh, you said that? Oh, all right, cool. I would name, I mean, I even never see these people in life again, but their actions inspired me so much, from moving and trying to throw fists to now they're moving me to creative inspiration to figure out things. There's a reason why I have Richard Pryor behind me. There's a reason why I have Richard Pryor behind me. And the reason I have Richard Pryor behind me is because he spent a lifetime of dealing with people who made him small. And at the top of his career, what he thought was the epiphany of his career, he literally has a mental breakdown in Las Vegas. And he realizes that, wait a minute, this collegiate guy I'm trying to be like Bill Cosby, I never went to college. I grew up poor. My mother was a prostitute. I grew up in a brothel. These are my realities. And he bought into himself. And that was the Richard Pryor that we knew and loved. Now, and he would say this, that there are always people around him trying to make him small, whether it be drugs or alcohol or money. Be careful. That's out there too. But please let me emphasize to everybody, and I do this in the morning before I run. I say I take the big breath to blow out smallness. And you inhale and you let it out. And whatever you're going to do after that, whether it's a conversation, whether it's working out, whether it's praying, whatever it is, let that smallness out, because we take that in all the time. You know, breathe, if you will, bigness into your space. Now, a lot of people say, okay, preacher, well, what about the whole buyers and sellers thing? I'm going to tell you guys something. One of the most empowering things you can do is wake up in the morning and either say, one, I'm a buyer, or two, I'm going to work on being a buyer. This is the tradition of the slave going, I'm not going to work for you anymore. I'm going to determine my own worth. And you ain't got to be a slave. You ain't got to be black. You ain't got to be Muslim. But the idea that I'm going to determine my own worth, and, if you will, to the point where not only am I going to determine my own worth, if I'm doing it correctly, I'm going to create my own marketplace. And in that marketplace, everyone else has to come. And guess what they come? Because when they come to me, well, guess what they are, brothers and sisters? They are sellers. They are sellers. I buy what I like. I have an understanding of what I need. Oh, no, I don't need that. I can take this. I can negotiate the price for engagement. I can negotiate the price for interaction. Creativity now has a price tag. A couple months back, a year ago, whatever, we talked about NFTs. Now, here's the deal about NFTs. I know crypto has crashed. Bitcoin is trading low. Ethereum is trading low. You know why I'm still excited about NFTs, brothers and sisters? Because it's still a platform where you can put your art out. People are upset about NFT because they can't make millions of dollars. Well, I thought you were making art. I've been making art. What have you been doing? Waiting for the Ethereum to go up to make art? That's the difference, brothers and sisters, between being buyers and sellers. We only have a couple minutes left, and I got to jump off because I have a call. When you pray, when you give thanks, when you're around your loved ones, have conversations about not being small. Have conversations that when the moment comes, we want our children, we want ourselves for the big shot. We want to be able to have the strength and courage to take the shot, not pass it, take the shot. Irregardless whether you make the shot or not, take the opportunity. Irregardless whether you're successful or you fail, take the shot. Move yourself into a different arena whereby it's okay because it's not the last shot. It's okay because we don't believe it's the last opportunity. It's okay because we're in a space of people who are also taking the same shot. That, brothers and sisters, is what it means to stop playing yourself small. Now, I got to get out of here. You guys have been amazing. Listen, when Monday opens up, you guys need to know I'm going to be going overseas. I'm leaving next Monday. I'll be back November the 1st. I will be pre-recording some shows. I hope you guys don't mind. They'll have the nature like this, but I'll give you some updates from the road, and we'll share those as well. I'll be in London, officially touring from October the 20th to the 30th. Again, not trying to play myself small, but I want all of us to know these things. And when I come back, I'd really like to have Satan. I'd really like to have a conversation with people, our family, about what are you doing to make sure you don't play yourself small? How can we help you guys achieve things that you want to do? I remember Sister Ree had a catering business back then. Went from giving your boy food to a whole catering business. That's the stuff that moves you from being buyers and sellers. That's the stuff that keeps you from playing yourself small. All right, everybody, I got to go. God bless you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Stop playing yourself small. Take care now. Assalamu alaikum.